They chased us all out of our homes into a ghetto, a certain part of Lodz, where it was like out of the city limits, you know, and there was hardly in any of the homes running water, no bathrooms. It was in a very, very primitive part of the city. And they announced that everybody has to leave. Those that will not obey will be shot. Well, my daddy knew a lot of people, so he went to that part of the city and he approached one of his friends that he knew before the war. And he says, you know, they're going to assign other people. You know me, you know my family. Why don't you let us move in? That family was a man and wife, husband and wife, and a daughter, and a son-in-law, and a child, a newborn baby. They had one bedroom, living room, dining room combination, and again, a tiny little kitchen, almost like a closet. And they said, you're welcome to move in. Please bring your family. So we gathered all of our belongings, minus, of course, furnishings, because we were not allowed to take our furniture with us. We took a backpack and a suitcase, and we walked out of our home that we were born and raised in.
When was that?
That was in 1940.
What time of the year?
September 1940.
Do you remember what you took with you?
My mother packed the bag for me. Only I took with me I took the backpack that Mother made for me, and I took with me my satchel that I had for school with the school supplies, schoolwork, the books, and whatever I had there with me.
How old were you then?
Pardon me?
How old were you?
I was 16 years old. I was 16 years old. And we came into that place called ghetto. We put our belongings in the corner so we don't disturb the people. And we went about hoping it's going to be a few days, a couple of weeks, it will end. It didn't till 1944. In 1943, we were deported from the ghetto.
Tell me a little bit about life in the ghetto for your family. What was it like there as you spent those years?
Very bad. It was so bad that there were rations announced on the walls, you know, announcements were made on the walls that tomorrow in this and this section they're going to give rations. So my sister and I, or my brother and my sister, or my brother and myself would go early in the morning, 4 or 5 o'clock, and stay in line in hopes that they'll give us some potatoes or carrots or beets or maybe a slice of bread or something, because it was very bad. And the streets were, I mean, all over the streets and the sidewalks were bodies from starvation. Men, women, and children you could find all over, and we just automatically stepped over and went on to wait in line in hopes to get something to eat for the next day to survive. We had no car, no truck, no transportation at all to even start cleaning the streets from these bodies, because some of them were already rotten from lying around. And I remember the president of the ghetto made an announcement, and he says, you're going to have to do something, all of you together. We're going to have to do something, or we're all going to die from sickness. We have to pick up those bodies. Some ingenious decided to break a door, an inside door, and find a bicycle with 2 wheels and put that door on top and load bodies on top of that door, you know, and 2, 3 people will pull it and another one will push it, and we would bring it to the cemetery. In the cemetery was no time to bury them, so they put the bodies in before the cemetery they had built like a barrack, just temporary to place them, and they put them one on top of the other, you know, heads this way, legs this way, and there were lines. It was only about enough to walk through between the piles of bodies. I would have probably never seen that had I not one day gone to look for my father. My father was 49 years old, and one evening he did not come home. After curfew, they had to come home. There was no way you could be in the street. In the ghetto, we didn't find our father, and early in the morning my mother was crying, we were crying, where's Daddy, where's Daddy? And my sister and I went to the morgue where they kept those bodies. And my sister says, I'm going through here and look to see if I can recognize Daddy. And I says, and I'm going to go through here. And on the side she was going were the legs. And my father had one toe on top of the other. And she says, stop, there's Daddy here. So we took off some bodies from that were on top of him, and we moved them. And we found Daddy with his eyes wide open, his mouth open. He was like packing something to eat so he can still live. We found him there, and we took him out from all the other bodies. And my sister says, what are we going to do now? The cemetery was just a few feet away, but there was no shovel, there was no equipment to bury Daddy. So I found and my sister little branches from old trees, and we started digging, you know. And we made a shallow little grave and put Daddy in. And then as we were going home, I says, now you're going to tell Mommy what happened to Daddy. And she says, no, Mother loves you more. You're going to tell Mommy. And I said, no, you're the oldest. You have to tell Mother. We didn't have to tell Mother. When we came in, and we were hysterical. We embraced Mother, embraced each other, you know, my little brother, my little sister. They were crying. They didn't know why. They just knew that he wasn't there. And finally, Mother says, you found Daddy somewhere, yes, did you? And we both said yes. And we took Mother and my little sister, my little brother, and we went back to show her where we buried Daddy. It was the hardest thing to do. Very, very hard. When your father's 49 years old and we were so young, you know. He was in the prime of his life. Very handsome and very, very devoted family men. Why this happened, I still don't know. I ask myself over and over this question. Why? Why?